So what is the Great Compromise? It's an agreement between the states during the Constitutional Convention of 1787 concerning representation. There would be a bicameral legislature with proportional representation in the lower house and equal representation in the upper house. When the Articles of Confederation were first written, there was a unicameral legislature which gave an equal say to each state concerning federal government issues. During the Constitutional Convention of 1787, large states wanted proportional representation, or representation based off a state's population, while smaller states wanted to continue the equal representation the Articles of Confederation currently provided. To satisfy all states, they came up with the Great Compromise, which called for a bicameral legislature with proportional representation in the lower house, or the House of Representatives, and equal representation in the upper house, or the Senate. They came to that result by blending two plans set forward by Virginia and New Jersey. The Virginia plan, backed by Edmund Randolph and James Madison, called for a bicameral legislature with the lower house members elected by the people for 3-year terms and the upper house composed of leaders elected by state legislature for 7-year terms. Both would use population or proportional representation as the basis on how many representatives each state would receive. One of the major issues concerning the Virginia plan was that it required the Articles of Confederation to be replaced. The New Jersey plan was backed by William Patterson, and it called for a unicameral legislature in which all states have an equal number of votes, or an equal say in what happened with the national government. This plan was derived from simply reshaping the Articles of Confederation to provide an increase in power to Congress or the federal government. The ending result was the Connecticut Compromise. Since no one could completely agree on either of those plans, Roger Sherman and Oliver Ellsworth put out the Connecticut Compromise, or what we now know as the Great Compromise, which blended the large states and the small states' proposals together. However, their proposal is not included in the Constitution, as Benjamin Franklin modified their Connecticut Compromise and made it more appealing to the larger states to get everybody on board with the Great Compromise. So why was a compromise even needed? It settled the balance of power between small states and large states. Small states felt that without equal representation, their voice and interests would be drowned out by the larger states, while large states felt that smaller states just wanted equal representation because they were more concerned with power rather than liberty. So the results of the Great Compromise is that nobody was happy. Everybody left disappointed because nobody got exactly what they wanted. However, small states partially received equal representation because there are 2 representatives in the upper house, or the Senate, and large states partially received proportional representation because the lower house, or the House of Representatives, representatives are determined proportionally or by population. The aftermath of the Great Compromise is that while it determined the structure of the legislative branch, issues would rise in how population was to be counted, which leads to the 3/5 Compromise. Now, while the 3/5 Compromise is not a part of the Great Compromise, it's a direct reflection of what happened because of the Great Compromise. The 3/5 Compromise was suggested by James Madison. It allowed states to count 3/5 of each black person in determining political representation in the House of Representatives. It was a result of the how to tax the states issues, and the 3/5 Compromise would not be adopted until the Constitutional Convention because the compromise was not approved by all of the states, and the Articles of Confederation required a unanimous vote. Therefore, the Great Compromise helped to determine the legislative branch of our government today, but it didn't fix everything. There were still issues that needed to be settled. There were still compromises that needed to be made by the states.